So let's get into our talk for today. And as we get started, I want to invite you to just close your eyes for a minute. And I want to take you back to a time that a lot of us probably would rather not revisit. We're going to go back about 5 years to 2020, to the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. I know this is not a pleasant time, not something that a lot of us want to go back to. And for many of you, you were probably sophomores or juniors in high school. You were probably thrust into a stressful and chaotic home learning environment. Some of you may have been parents at home with your children, starting to contemplate a career change, which has now brought you into the AE environment. Every night during the pandemic, we would turn on the TV and we got to see our nation's top leading medical researchers and scientists telling us what new knowledge and information they had learned that day. We also got to see an emerging evidence-based profession, our profession, create new knowledge and new information in real time as well. Teachers and leaders across the country found new ways to deliver instruction, to create brand new strategies for virtual student engagement, to find better ways to deliver the social services that our communities rely on from our schools in a way that's not only safe, but also was more efficient and more effective. You are about to enter into a profession that is experiencing a transformation, an evidence-based transformation. The new knowledge and information that we created during the pandemic is 5 years old now. It has become the new foundation, the new knowledge base upon which all new knowledge, all new innovations must be built upon. What is evidence-based decision making? What do we mean when we say our profession is transforming into an evidence-based profession? Evidence-based decision making means that we're making choices in our classrooms that are based on data and information that we know to be true, that we know to have been vetted and tested and studied in a rigorous way in schools and classrooms like ours. When I say evidence-empowered educator, what do I mean? This is what I call the evidence-empowered educator method. And this is a method that I teach to leaders and educators all over the country to really think about how we can make better evidence-based decisions. And there's three elements to it. The first element is data analysis. As educators, we collect mountains of data, a ridiculous amount of data on our kids. You're going to learn that when you get into the classroom and you start working with what we call student information systems, which is where all of that data lives. A lot of that data populates up to the state and national level so that researchers and policymakers can use it to make decisions. But we can use it to make decisions at the classroom and building levels too, and we should. All of this data exists for us to use and to deploy. And it doesn't do anybody any good if it's just sitting on your computer. So the first step in becoming an evidence-empowered educator is becoming comfortable working with data to make better decisions, to become comfortable opening up a spreadsheet with 1,000 lines of data, with 20,000 lines of data, and pulling meaningful information out of that. The second space of this evidence-empowered educator method is research use. We have to take this data that we have and we have to give it some context so that we can really understand what it means for our kids and our schools and our classrooms. And the research body is how we do that. Your school is not going to be special or unique. Your kids are special and unique. Your learners are special and unique. Your environment might be, but really, the problems that you're going to see in your school, the challenges you're going to have to overcome, are not special or unique. Other educators across the country have had those same problems, and they have figured out how to solve them. And the answers to those problems, the solutions, lie in the research literature. And so what we have to do is we have to become very comfortable using our data to identify problems and then using research to apply context to our problems so that we can find solutions and test those solutions out in our classrooms. When we go to test, we move into the third space of the evidence-empowered educator method, which is continuous improvement systems. Continuous improvement systems are structures that allow us to thoughtfully deploy new teaching techniques and strategies in our schools and classrooms and to test them over multiple iterations as we deploy, as we learn, as we tweak and grow. So what happens to us is we move from becoming a consumer of evidence, someone who is looking at research and data to make a decision, to becoming a creator of new evidence, to someone who is deploying a process, testing it, improving it, testing it again, improving it again, over and over and over again, as our teaching methods and our strategies solidify into new evidence-based practices. So we become a real creator of evidence that we can then take to spaces like this one and share with our colleagues who are challenged by the same problems that we may be experiencing. So let's transition our thinking here and let's talk about how you, as a pre-service teacher in your studies, can prepare yourself to be an evidence-empowered educator when you enter the field in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, wherever you are in your journey. The first piece of advice I have for you is to take your statistics and your research classes seriously. Now, when I was going through teacher prep as a music teacher, our data analysis class was almost a joke because we all thought, oh, we're music teachers. We're not going to need data. We took the class together as a group. We did the bare minimum to get through it, and we made it to the other side. We got our good grade, we moved on, and promptly forgot everything we learned. That was a huge mistake. And that is something that I regretted for a long time. I want you to really lean into those classes because when you enter the classroom, those data analysis skills, the ability to work with a spreadsheet in a deep and meaningful way, the ability to analyze data beyond just looking at the average and did the average go up or down, is going to be more important because our teachers are getting more and more training on data every day. And they're having more and more put on their plates related to data every day. And so if you take those classes seriously now, you will be more successful later. I want to challenge you to think about what you can do now to prepare yourself to be an effective evidence-empowered educator later. You've got a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years for some of you before you're in that space. So take the steps now. Really hold yourself accountable to getting good at data analysis, to finding ways to become more research fluent and more comfortable with the language of research, and for really building those continuous improvement processes into your daily life, to making continuous improvement your default mode of problem solving. And if you can do that now, I know you will be a successful evidence-empowered educator in the future.